I'm going to be telling you 3 hard truths that I wish I knew earlier when I was skinny fat. Growing up, I was always skinny fat. I had a tummy, I had chubby cheeks, skinny arms, and you could tell my body fat was way too high for the amount of muscle mass I had. And I didn't even know what to do about it. I didn't even know I was skinny fat in the first place until I started working out and realizing that I couldn't see the gains I was making in the gym. There was a lot of things that played into this, but the first thing is that my mindset when I went into the gym, looking at programs online, was I need to get as strong as possible to get as big as possible. And that's the first hard truth I learned, was that getting as strong as possible is not going to lead you to having an aesthetic physique. And the reason for this is because most of the time when you're focusing on getting as strong as possible, you're focusing on the big 3 lifts, the squat, bench, the deadlift, and you're trying to get those numbers as high as you can, because if you want to be a power lifter in the future, or if you just want to be strong in general. However, the problem with this is that instead of focusing on the muscles that are actually going to be making you look big and aesthetic in general, they're not going to be being worked as much as you could be working them if you were utilizing other exercises and focusing on them and getting stronger on them instead. Now, another reason why this was negative for me was I was so focused on getting my numbers up in the gym that I was willing to injure myself just to get a few more pounds in my lift in my 1 rep max. I remember I've hit 405 on my squat, and I remember getting up to that point took so many days where I was just pushing myself way too hard, hurting my back, hurting my knees. I was I was wearing knee sleeves at the time, and they were compressing my calves, and I would constantly have calf pain throughout the day. It was just a disaster, and I don't recommend that for anyone unless you're actually trying to compete in powerlifting. I took it too far. You don't have to take it that far. Um, Another reason why this was so negative for me was because I almost forgot why I started lifting in the first place. And I feel like that's super important, is you don't want to lose sight of why you're lifting and why you're on that journey. I started so that I could build my confidence, feel better about myself, look in the mirror and be happy with what I see, have people tell me I look good, and just be proud of how I look in general. Now, when I was focusing on strength, all I cared about was my numbers, and it almost put that goal on the back burner, and I just started forgetting why I was lifting, and I wasn't having as fun as I wanted to in the gym, and I just lost the love I had for lifting in the first place. Now, the second hard truth I wish I knew earlier was when I was skinny fat, I did not understand that my horrible diet was the reason I looked like shit. I grew up eating really bad food, just eating whatever my family made for me, the snacks that were in the house. Whenever I was hungry, I would eat, and it caused me to look terrible. It gave me the skinny fat physique, and even when I started working out, I had that mindset that, oh, I have to bulk, I have to eat more to get big, and I basically just kept eating more of the same shit foods that I was already eating, and it made me look worse. And I got to a point where I wasn't even skinny fat anymore. I was just getting fat, and it wasn't to the point where like I was obese or anything, but like you could just tell that I wasn't a healthy person. I wasn't eating healthy. And the second I decided to change that, I it took me a long time. It took me years to finally realize that, wow, like I've been lifting for so long and I don't look like I even go to the gym. So I decided to start tracking my calories and eating actual healthy food instead of just whatever I could find in my house. I started buying my own food and cooking my own food. And this is really what made the difference in terms of my physique and looking actually aesthetic. I think that this is also such a common issue because most people underestimate how much body fat they really have. If you look at someone who's prepping for a bodybuilding show, and you can look at them and their physique looks good and they have abs or anything, they can still have up to like 30 pounds to lose before they even get to stage ready physique. And that just shows how much body fat we really have. If you can't see your abs, you can lose a lot more weight until you look like you have an aesthetic physique. You need to be pretty lean to be aesthetic. I would say 10 to 12% body fat is perfect. And I think for most people, being in a cutting diet is way more beneficial than bulking, especially as a beginner. I think that instead of cutting, most people that are skinny fat should be in a maintenance phase until they get lean. And from there, you can decide if you're really still small, you can bulk up a little bit, but I would take it super slow because, in my opinion, bulking, especially as a beginner, almost always results in overeating and poor food choices. And that's what I saw with myself. I know some people can have more discipline than me. I consider myself to be pretty disciplined, and I had a very hard time with that, just because of the habits I collected over the years of eating very poorly. Um, the last hard truth I learned, and that I wish I knew earlier, was that my expectations were not realistic. And what I mean by that is there are way more people than you think that are on steroids. Even at your local gym, there's people that are on that they won't tell you. There's people that are on that barely look like they lift, but they're a little bit bigger than you, and you get self-conscious about it. You have to find a middle ground because if you look at these people on steroids and you compare yourself as a beginner, you can look at your results and be like, "Wow, I'm not nearly as close as that guy's muscle mass. I must be doing something wrong. I might have bad genetics, whatever." And but you also can't have the mindset that, oh well, I can't look good unless I take steroids, because you're just going to go down that path, and I don't think that's the path to take. Personally, I'm pretty against steroid use. The thing you need to realize is that you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people. You should be comparing yourself to you yesterday. You should be like tracking your progress to see how much you've changed and seeing your numbers slowly go up in the lifts that you care about to get those muscles to grow. And you can still make incredible results as a natural. I don't care what anyone says. I've made way more results than I thought I could make as a natural, and it just keeps growing. Like I'm 4 years in and I still keep making gains. It's slow, but it still happens. You can look at anyone on YouTube and they're constantly making progress, even though they've been lifting for decades. So you have to find that middle ground where you're not comparing yourself to everyone, and you do think you can make a lot of progress naturally, and you have to be optimistic about what you can achieve. I think that's what will really make you stick to it. People who have unrealistic expectations when they get into lifting are always the ones I see that end up quitting, because they get into it and they think, holy shit, I'm going to make so much progress, I'm getting jacked. And then if the gains slow down because their new gains are over, or if they start comparing themselves too much to people on social media that are on gear, they're just going to end up quitting because they lose the motivation and they don't think they can get the results they want. And I really think that's dangerous, because what actually gets you the results you want is long-term consistency. That's the end all be all. It'll beat anyone who has better genetics than you. If you just stick to it long term, you will beat any other person that doesn't stick to it long term and is consistent with it. I hope these 3 truths help you in your lifting journey, and yeah.